This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. There is a term, it's two words that we hear quite frequently lately, especially looking at reels on TikTok. And you wonder what these words mean. When you hear them right away, you think you have an idea, but are we right about emotional intelligence? It can truly support you in your journey. We're going to talk about that today. She is a certified relationship coach and focused on moving your life forward. She's Tiffany Aquino. She's back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Good to be back. How are you?
Very well, very well. And I think I got emotional intelligence, what this means. But
Okay.
then there's a part of me that wonders, do I really know what it means? So let's dig into it just on the
Okay.
surface level. How do you define it?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm going to bounce that back to you and ask you a question. What do you think it means? I know a lot of people talk about it, but very rarely do they say, okay, you need to have emotional intelligence. You need to look for a partner that has emotional intelligence so that you're
Hmm.
both aligned. That's a healthy way to have it. But very few people talk about the depth of it and what that looks like. So I want to ask you, what do you think, and from what you've been listening to, and or just your intuition and your heart, what do you believe that's to be?
I would say it's being very in touch with your emotions, dialed into them, being able to regulate them when you need to. You know, every moment of every day is different. Things present themselves, but
Yeah.
how do you react in those moments really defines your level of emotional intelligence.
You got it. Very good. A plus.
I kind of made that up, but I really did.
So I think that has a lot to do with you knowing yourself, of course, and life experiences, right? Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and express your emotions in a healthy way.
Hmm.
And manage and express your emotions in a healthy way.
And I gave that explanation based on what I felt in my journey. We're all on a journey,
Yep.
and in the past, things would challenge me. Maybe freak out a little bit. Something presents, or the what if this, what if that,
Right.
and now brought it back to being in the present as much as possible. And when things present, instead of worrying. As a matter of fact, like here we go. I have a marketing company. Got a call from a client this morning,
Okay.
and big client,
Uh-huh.
years, and I was doing a podcast. Couldn't talk to him, but I texted him. I'll call you back when I'm on break. And right away, what's my brain doing? Oh, what if they're going to make a change? Well, what if this?
Uh-huh.
Now, in the past, I would marinate with that for a while, like, make this phone call. Here we go. And I was just for a moment, I was like, hope this is not bad news. I'm like, wait up,
Uh-huh.
make the phone call. Turns out they're expanding. They're going to need more help. And it was a great call. It was
Well,
like
good.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. But I can see what you're saying. So you're talking about the panic and the mindset and what's going on
For sure.
in our minds, right? So that's kind of like the attachment, the anxious attachment style, right? And we can talk about attachment styles too, and there are four of them. But just a particular moment could bring us into any anxious situation. But with respect to emotional intelligence, you had it right, Steve, in regards to kind of just first of all, the first step is self-awareness, being aware. There are five pillars. So it's self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So, with that self awareness, it's taking the time to pause and reflect. And I mentioned many times before in our past episodes, it's pause and reflect. It's taking time to respond and not react. And there's that difference, right? And the reaction is just that you're reacting. It's impulsive. Uh, which is a lot of times attached to the anxious attachment style as well. But when you take time to be conscious and aware of yourself
Hmm.
and your thought process,
Yep.
Then you're going to form these habits. And if you're going to do that, be conscious and aware of, okay, this is what I'm going to try to do in my day to day. Then you're going to form a new habit. You're going to reprogram that subconscious into that anxious or that reactive into that respond mode and more of a calm state so that you can respond um, logically and with some sense and having some thought into that after you've paused and thought about that, right? Instead of reacting. So self-awareness for sure is that leading into that second pillar, which is that self-regulation, right? So pause, breathe, think about what you're going to say. So that was a good thing that you were in that situation, Steve, right? You had that moment where even though your mind was going, but you had that your schedule, you were busy, right? You were doing this podcast, but you were mentally kind of preparing and going over, okay, blah, 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 blah. But it allowed you to kind of calm down a little bit. And once you ended what you had to end and went into that situation, you were able to kind of put things together rationally. So yeah, that was certainly a good situation for you in that part. So that was a good practice.
But the difference is, if this was 5, 7, 8 years ago, I'd be like,
Oh my goodness.
thinking about it, worrying about it, what's going on with that, what's coming my way. Where now it was a blip. It was like, all right,
Right.
hold up there. I have a very close friend dealing with a similar situation.
Okay.
They're buying a franchise.
Okay.
They're very worried. A
Yeah.
lot of financial responsibility there,
Okay.
and kind of a little in freak mode. And literally, I'm looking back at a text here this morning,
Yeah.
and my thought was, remember, they need you. You're they're not so much doing you any favors. You're buying. You're the
Right.
customer. This is
Sure.
on your terms, and don't worry about it. Don't freak out about it. Call other franchise owners.
Ah,
Get some. She hasn't done that yet, really, to a large degree. Feel
uh-huh.
them out. How are they feeling? How did it all go?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. You just said a mouthful, Steve. So that leads into the three other pillars. So the fact that you were a wonderful supportive friend showed you were expressing that motivational piece for them, which they already knew, I'm sure. But when you're in you're not self-regulated and you're in kind of fight or flight and your mind's going all over the place and you're nervous, of course, that's a big deal, right? Having to buy a franchise in the business situation. And
Sure.
we're all human. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to go through these situations where we think we're aligned and we're regulated and we might be. And then all of a sudden a situation comes that's a big deal and it takes us totally into fight and flight again. And either we can self-regulate on our own or we need a supportive friend or community or someone to kind of reach out to help us self-regulate. Leading into that third piece, which is that motivational piece. And that motivational piece is understanding what our purpose is and our values connected to that. So
Mm,
I would say in your message, help give them that clarity, knowing that, this is your purpose. And oh, by the way, they need you, right? And certainly that helped them motivate them into giving them some clarity. You offered a great deal of empathy as well, I would say, in your message to them, right? That's something that they need. We all need in our friendships, right? In any relationship that we have, which is why you having emotional intelligence was great. That message spoke volumes for them, I'm sure. So the empathy piece is empathy versus sympathy. So empathy is when you can truly feel someone's feelings, right? And if you've ever been in that situation, having sympathy for somebody is like, okay, you hear something, sad or they're going through grief or something. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have sympathy for you. Kind of very surface level. You do feel bad for them, yes, but true empathy is much deeper than that. It's truly feeling. If you've ever been around someone who's grieving or has been through something and your heart just literally aches and you can just feel their emotions as they're talking to you and they're going through their situation and they're explaining something. And however, you do have to be careful with that because people who are empaths, right? You can have empathy for somebody and not be an empath. I want to explain that too. So there's this careful line with empaths where we offer so much empathy that we tend to overshare and
mm,
relieve or give too much of our energy. So that's the boundary that we have to give to ourselves
That's
as
a
empaths.
big one. And
Yeah.
I've been connected with people um, a few years ago, a nurse, and she had to take every third day off because she was drained. And she said, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is. I'm getting sick again. I'm like, no, you are feeling what the patients are feeling, and you're
Yeah.
taking it on. And
Yes.
you need to put up some blocks. And she was an in-home nurse, so she was very connected with their personal
Oh,
situations,
yeah.
would speak about them like they were family. And it
Yeah.
just overtook her. And I said, you need to realize what you got going on here. You have a high level of
Sure,
empathy.
absolutely. Oh my goodness, I give so much credit and have so much heart for people who are able to do that. That's a huge deal. It's no different because, like you said, they've created this bond. They're like family to them, right? Because they're in home with them
Yeah,
and they're in their day to day. But it's no different from caring for a loved one who's bedridden and going
yeah.
through that situation. You naturally, you're human beings. You have a heart. Your heart's going to go out to them. Having boundaries, though, however, even if you're not an empath, but you are in that situation and you're around someone or in a situation, you're just having to care for them. It is going to drain you. It certainly is going to take your energy from you. No different from, let's say, for example, you're a new mom, right? And you've got little kids and you just want to give, and you do. However, moms need mom time, right? So boundaries are so important, so incredibly important, which is why we should not feel guilty at all about instilling them in our life and communicating them. Communicating them, okay, mommy needs our mommy time now. I need to go take the bath, even, the door's closed, whatever. Uh, you know, draw these lines, have these boundaries for our own inner peace and our relationship with ourselves again. Because if you lose that, for goodness sakes, there's no way you can have a healthy relationship with anybody if you lose your peace and you fall out of alignment.
Oh,
So
oh,
boundaries are so important.
it really is. You're just, kind of getting by as opposed to really living life. How do you
Right.
put up those boundaries? Let's say you have a high level of empathy,
Hmm.
um, in the nurse situation or, anything similar. How do you, how do you, how do you do that? How do you put the boundaries up? How are you intentional about, only giving so much
Right.
as you can give?
Sure. Well, I can explain this from personal experience. I wasn't a nurse, but I was a medical assistant. But I think my best experience comes from 10 years of being in ministry. And the 10 years of being in ministry and leading, and that's just very draining. Doing ministry work and you're just constantly volunteering and your heart's for the needy and helping. So just from my own personal experience, I can explain that the first step in that is, of course, awareness and seeing how much that it's draining you, and not just on a physical level. It's literally draining your energy, right? And your mental state, your spirituality, your physical, your emotional, all of it, every piece of it. So coming to a conscious awareness of that, and then realizing it is okay to step back. I had ministry burnout so many times because I felt guilty that these people needed me. The needy need me. Who else is going to help them? Blah 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 blah. But I hit the ground more than once. So I think when you ask, how do you do that? First, of course, awareness, yes, but realizing, put away the guilt. Put it away. Just put it away.
Yes, that's the other part of it, I do believe, where you
Yeah.
feel guilty that, oh, well, I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough of me.
Yeah.
Hmm, that's a
Yeah.
tough one.
Yeah. And what I realized with that was, oh my goodness, I think the reason for that is because I'm not in a secure attachment style. So when I learned about the four attachment styles, I realized I was a codependent. So,
Hmm,
which and funny enough, I learned all of this. Um, the second piece of it was when I became a relationship coach to heal my past childhood trauma and heal my inner child
sure.
wounds, so on and so forth. But the first part was what led to that was a ministry work called the Stevens Ministry that I did. So learning what boundaries was. And when I learned about this, I'm like, wait a minute. Here I am oversharing, getting ministry burnout, and I'm in this ministry learning about boundary development. Why did anybody tell me this? And I'm 45, how 45 years old I think it was when I learned. I'm like, what in the world? This book that you handed me should be in all high schools. So yeah, that's where I learned all that from. But having the awareness and then finding the knowledge, find the right resources to understand who you are and stick to it and make it a practice. And it's not going to be easy, right? So if you're feeling guilty about setting boundaries, if you're feeling guilty about doing that, you just literally have to just put it away and make it a practice and make it a habit, just like all the other pieces were a habit. The other pieces of oversharing were the habit. The other pieces of always saying yes instead of no when you wanted to say no, that was a habit as well. So just reprogram that mindset and tell yourself it does no one any good to completely exert yourself, have no energy, and lose your peace when you think your intentions are good and they are. However, the end result is you losing your peace, right? And maybe it'll probably end that relationship as well if you don't focus on yourself and set some boundaries and step into that and put away that guilt.
Do you
So,
feel, Tiffany, that the game changer may be, and also making all of this easier,
mhm.
really figuring out who you are? I know it sounds cheesy, but I believe that most of us really don't know, really, really don't know us.
100%. 100%. That's exactly correct. And it's know thyself. It is know thyself. Like my book, The I Am Within, right? And my healing and transformation journey. It was just this aha moment. Just when I thought I knew myself and I was going through these stages and I became a relationship coach and I knew about boundaries and I knew about this and da 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 da. But it writing it down and putting it all out there certainly was this aha moment of, oh my goodness, this is the know thyself thing. This is it. If you don't know yourself, and within that knowing yourself, knowing that your life and your actions and everything, yes, of course they have our reticular how do we say this, our RAS, reticular activating system, acts as a filtering system that's created from selective perception of reality based on our past experiences.
Hmm.
You think about that, 90 to 95% of our daily actions in our life are based on our subconscious and are based on emotions from past experiences.
Autopilot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. And that doesn't mean we use 10% of our brain. It just means that we are on autopilot, right? So we do have to do this reprogramming. In order to do that, we have to know ourselves. The way to know ourselves is this. One, become aware of what's going on in your life and your relationships, right? What's your nervous system like on a day to day? Are you sick and tired of living in this fight or flight? Are you sick and tired of feeling anxious all the time? Are you sick and tired of feeling that you're not aligned and you're constantly, you know, your head's always spinning, you're not feeling focused or what have you? It's most likely that your nervous system's in fight or flight and in the sympathetic, and we have to get to the parasympathetic, which is that calm. There will be moments or situations where we fall out of that, yes. However, if you can come to that second pillar of knowing how to self-regulate, breath work, I am a huge advocate for breath work. And that will certainly help with the nervous system. And when we're in fight or flight, our neurons and our nervous system literally is constricted and it's not receiving oxygen. So
Hmm.
when it's not receiving oxygen, we're not receiving oxygen. We're not having brain heart coherence. So that right there is a mouthful in itself. When we give ourselves that breath and doing that breath work and in that pattern, we give our entire nervous system oxygen, and in that oxygen, we're able to think clearly and put our thoughts
So
well.
I'm gonna read another text here. Same person, starting the new business. This is just a little while ago.
Okay.
And stop worrying. You're in control is what I wrote. And I said, sounds silly. Breathe deep. Reset your nervous system. And the reply was, okay, I did. I'm not even kidding. It's right there because it works. Because it works.
It does, yeah. And we can, it doesn't have to be a big deal. We can just pause, get away from the noise and the distraction, put your phone on silence, and just do 3 rounds of conscious breathing. If you find yourself not being able to take a deep breath, if you find yourself having shallow breathing, your nervous system's stuck in fight or flight.
Mm.
So give yourself just a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, get away from the noise, and have some conscious deep breaths. I do it every morning, sometimes during the day, get a YouTube video to help if something needs a visual. So yeah. And I want to talk about that fifth piece a little bit more, that fifth pillar, going into those social skills. And that doesn't mean, getting on social sites and social apps or doesn't mean you have too many friends or you need more friends, right? It's about communicating effectively. And then we've talked about that before, and that all ties into self-awareness. Self-development is huge, right? Self-awareness and setting boundaries. Because a
So
lot of people ask me, go ahead. I
uh,
think I know what you're going to say.
before we move from this point maybe to another pillar, um, do you think it's possible to 100% know ourselves? We've said that before. Know thyself. This is where breakthroughs happen. It's a
Hmm.
game changer. Things
Hmm.
become easier.
Hmm.
Will we ever 100% know ourselves? My intuition tells me never. I don't know if it's
Correct.
possible.
I think we 100% know ourselves in the stage that we're in our life. However, we're
Hmm.
always evolving. We're like butterflies. We're constantly changing. We're always evolving. We're always
Hmm.
growing. And as we grow in wisdom, we grow in knowledge, we grow through life experiences. We're always learning. Like you and I confess that we didn't learn any of this until late in life, right? And I think that's probably for the majority of the culture today in regards to boundary development, how to communicate effectively, relationships as a whole, right? Do you just go with the flow? No, there is a framework for this. And that framework is knowing yourself and first healing yourself. Boundaries are huge. And if you can communicate them effectively with respect and with grace and confidence, um, uh, it can do a world of difference in your relationships as a whole and for your peace.
Totally. And I'm also looking at the word boundaries. I mean, just can't believe we're almost out of time. Like, I feel like I just started with you. Um, I get the word expectation when I think about boundaries.
Okay.
So
Okay.
people know what to expect, and they're not going to know unless you verbalize it in a nice way, what you're
Sure.
okay with.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a good way to put it for sure. Yes. I think that's probably a little bit better than limits, but limits about our expectations. I like expectations better for
Yeah,
sure.
and
Yes.
that's for you and those around you. What's your expectations in this situation or relationship? Where are the boundaries gonna
Absolutely.
go? Um,
Absolutely. That's the way you can tell if you're compatible with somebody. You have to have those conversations and early on in the relationship. Don't wait for it. Don't
yeah.
wait for it because you're too afraid. Because if you wait because you're too afraid to have that conversation, then you're afraid of rejection, or then your mindset on that relationship and with yourself is surface level. And now here you are in the kind of the anxious attachment style. Focus on the secure attachment style and boundary development and how to communicate effectively, and you can pull all the weeds and just cut to the chase and get to the right relationships that are right for you.
Oh, 5 words come to mind. I'll never do that again. What you just said,
Yeah.
like because you enter into a relationship, whether it's business, personal, close, intimate, whatever it is, where you just
Yeah.
like, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm just like, just lean back on it. And the more time you wait, the
Yeah.
harder it is down the road. And
Yes.
that applies to pretty much everything. Get it out in the open. Let's be clear, expectations, boundaries, and then um, and call you because we're out of time. How do we find you, Tiffany?
Thank you. So my website is tiffanyAquinocoaching.com, or on Instagram at Tiff Aquino, Aquino coaching.
I figured this out, a lot of this on my own, reading, talking to people, doing podcasts and all of that. If I knew, even, I'm not even kidding, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that I could reach out to you.
Oh.
I would probably have gotten this done in like months as opposed to years. Seriously.
Well,
And
thank
you know,
you.
it's still a
Yes.
journey. I mean, we're
We
still,
all
you know,
need somebody. Absolutely. We all need somebody to
yeah,
help us through this. Yeah. So good for you for reaching out for yourself. That's great. Yeah.
work in
Thank you,
progress
Steve.
for us all. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Appreciate it.
time.
Likewise. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.